Hi, I'm budding researchers, and welcome to another episode of Research Bite Size. For this episode, I'll be highlighting some of the criteria, or just a short introduction to get you going into quantitative data analysis. And this will be also your opportunity to get the hang of it, how to really look at your data. And by the end of this module, for the whole quantitative data analysis, somehow the main objective is for you to become good data storytellers and using also technological tools such as the SPSS. Now, well, I'd like to highlight that statistics can be applied in everyday life setting. When you read news and when you look at the data right now in terms of the number of COVID-19 cases, in terms of surveys, who has the most number of, let's say, in terms of the election this coming 2022, and many other things, all these are applications of statistics. And even in daily encounters, when you look at, when you choose things, either you will go this one, you will choose this one or this one, and then you look at the responses of the students, or even reactions, or even sentiments of your friends, and then you factor in all these things. They are all simple applications of statistics when you look at the numerical values before we decide. And there are two types of statistical analysis that maybe you have encountered, assuming that this was emphasized already in your statistics class, not just in grade 11, but even in your junior high school years. So you remember descriptive statistics and inferential statistics. So when we talk about descriptive statistics, well, these provide descriptions of the population through numerical calculations or even visual representations. So graphs, charts, all these things are essential details of this descriptive statistics. And when we talk about inferential statistics, you go back to science. One of the necessary scientific process skills that you should have developed is inference. When you infer, you try to consider what would happen. Well, it's more than just prediction, but looking at trends also and patterns for you to infer. Now, inferential statistics, basically it makes inferences and predictions about the population based on a sample of data taken from the population in question. And with that, we'll highlight inferential statistics as we analyze the data. And it's a necessary skill that you need to develop. In fact, it will complement now things that you have been exposed to in your science class and even in your math class, most specifically in your statistics class. This time the question is there a working framework that you can adopt to understand the whole process of hypothesis testing? So the general point of view that we need to look at in terms of quantitative data analysis is that we're trying to test our hypotheses. And I'd like to suggest this one as your main framework, looking at the different data that you will gather later on for your study. Now, the process of hypothesis testing definitely will, well, we can say it will start with hypothesis formulation, but your hypothesis will still depend on the research questions you have identified. And as you formulate your hypothesis, you go back again to the methods of science, if you remember. You try to establish first your hypothesis, you test your hypothesis, and then you can make now your conclusion and so on. As simple as that. Now, in the formulation of hypothesis, you remember you have your null and alternative hypothesis. And you also need to specify now the significance level. So you remember 95% confidence level or 99%. And these are essential so that we avoid now type 1 and type 2 errors. Simply when you talk about type 1 error, that's false positive. And then for type 2 errors, that's false negative. So we need to look at these issues in terms of analyzing our data. And we also need to consider this one, identification of probability distribution can either be one-tailed or two-tailed. So remember in the graph, so one-tailed was if you look at only on one side, and then two-tailed both sides, and then just looking on the trends. And of course, selecting now appropriate statistical tests. I've read some of your inputs. Maybe you've encountered parametric tests, non-parametric tests, but when do we use parametric tests or even non-parametric tests? What are the criteria that we should follow? And given all these processes, you will now have either acceptance or rejection of the hypothesis. And generally, that's how we do things in quantitative data analysis. We test our hypotheses. And we look at statistics as a main tool for us to really establish now our claims and even to have a better discussion depending on the trends and the patterns that we'd like to explore based on our study. So I hope you will not look at statistics in a very negative way, that it's because of math or because of numbers that you will not appreciate now its value in doing research. And this is necessary for us to become effective data storytellers.